Hello there and welcome to Black Jackal Gaming. We're going to take a look at the Incursor squad, which is one of the hidden gems of the Space Marine Codex. It's a really strong support unit for your army. Got a piece of war gear that has a mortal wound ability, which is very nice. An inbuilt extra movement with this unit via scout and a couple of extra tricks. Got a couple of decent leader options to go with it, so let's take a look at them. The datasheet comes in at 80 points for 5 models or 160 points for 10. Your standard movement 6, toughness 4, 3 up save, 2 wounds, leadership 6, 1 objective control. And for the scout 6 inches keyword, so before the first battle round, before you decide who's going to go first, the unit gets to move 6 inches, which is very nice. Got ranged ballistic skill of 3+, and it comes with the Oculus Bolt Carbine. This gives you the assault keyword, which allows you to advance and still shoot, as well as it ignores cover so your opponent doesn't get the benefits to save. Got 24-inch range, 2 attack, strength 4, a disappointing 0 AP and 1 damage. For melee, they come in at weapon skill 3+, and they have a paired combat blade. This comes with sustained hits 1, so any critical hits would do an additional hit. They come in at 3 attack, strength 4, -1 AP, 1 damage. Looking at the ability, it's called the multi-spectrum array. In your shooting phase, after the unit is shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more attacks made by this unit in this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly unit makes an attack that targets this enemy unit, you get to add 1 to the hit roll. What you essentially get to do with this, you get to target a couple of units, pop off a couple of shots, and then decide which one you want to give a +1 hit roll for ranged attacks for the rest of this phase for the rest of your army, which is very nice. Then they have a piece of war gear called the Haywire Mine. Once per battle, at the start of any phase, you can select one enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer and roll 1d6. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds, or 2d3 mortal wounds instead if it is a vehicle unit. This is really nice because it makes it quite a nice little trade piece and it threatens your enemy. If they get too close to this unit, then you can pop this off and do some mortal wounds. Very nice if it is a vehicle unit as well. And because this can be at the start of any phase, you got a little flexibility where you can use this. It is disappointing that it is only once a game though. Looking at the leaders that can join, the first is the captain of full boss armor. Got a couple of nice things where once per battle round, you can reduce the CP cost for this unit by 1, which is quite nice. Well as this, after both armies being deployed, you can select up to 3 infantry units and redeploy them. This is very nice because if you combine this with your scout 6 inches, you get a lot of additional pre-game movement out of them. Then we've got the lieutenant in a full boss armor. He grants lethal hits to all weapons in this unit. So on those critical hits for 6+, this hit will automatically wound the opponent, which is quite nice, especially since your attacks are only strength 4. He also grants the unit the ability to move up to 6 inches after shooting, which gives you a lot of flexibility with where you want to be on the battlefield. Gives you the option at the start of the game to move your scout 6 inches. Then you get to move your 6 inches, you get to advance at average 4 inches, shoot, and then move another 6 inches. So turn 1, you can get a lot of movement out of these guys. Finally, there's the Librarian of full boss armor. You've got 2 nice little abilities. First up, it gives you a Funeral Pain 4+ against psychic attacks. As well as this, models in the unit gain the stealth ability, so they're -1 to hit by ranged weapons. And the secondary part of this is that they basically get lone operative where they can't be targeted by a ranged attack if they're outside of 12 inches, which is very nice. Adds a lot of durability to the unit. Looking at the different types of tactical plays you can put in place with this squad. So it does have a nice little mortal wound piece of war gear, but unless your opponent has one key unit that you can guarantee a kill on by getting in nice, close and personal with it, you really want to keep this unit alive throughout the game. You want it to be more of a threat that limits your opponent's movement around objectives, or giving it the ability to push in and take out cheap units that might be holding an objective or about to do an action, basically minimizing your opponent's ability to score those secondary or potentially primary points. You also want to be activating their +1 to hit as well, so you don't want to sacrifice this unit too early in the game. Really, there's 2 key ways to use this unit, and this is based entirely on which character you attach to the unit. So if you opt for the Librarian, you can use him to use the Scout 6 inch at the start of the turn, and this allows you to potentially tag one of the wide objectives to hold onto it and create a nice firing lane to give off those +1s to hit. And you're going to be able to stay alive with that -1 to hit if they come within 12 inches. But more importantly, they can't target you because of the lone op that the unit is granted. That's one way to play it, where you can just set up and try and be as hardy as possible and get that +1. And then you can go for the lieutenant, where you can utilize a little bit of a peekaboo tactics to get a little bit more out of them and a little funner way to play them. So once again, you can use the scout's move to move forward and get behind cover. You want to stay safe because you don't have that built-in durability that the librarian is going to give you. Then in your turn, you've got the option of just simply moving out, shooting, declaring which target you want for your +1, and then you use the 6-inch move from your lieutenant and move back behind cover. You know what's better than -1 to hit? Not being able to be targeted at all, which is very nice to have. This can really help keep the unit alive for the entire game. And what this leads you into is being able to score those late game points later on. If you need to score behind enemy lines or get into another quarter for engage perhaps, having that 6-inch move, your average of 4-inch advance, being able still to shoot because you've got the assault, and then you've got that additional 6 inches afterwards, you've got a lot of movement to get around the board, especially when you can breach through terrain as well, through the ruins, to make sure you're getting into places to score the points where you need to be. They also offer quite a nice threat when holding or taking objectives, and this is down to the Haywire Mine, where you're almost guaranteed the D3 mortal wounds when charging because it is on a 2+, and if it is a tougher opponent, you do have the core stratagem, which is the grenade stratagem, which for 1 CP you roll 6d6, and for every 4+ you get a mortal wound. So when you're going in on the charge, you can essentially have 1 CP, and it's going to average you really around 5 mortal wounds, which is very nice to have. You've then got the -1 AP on your paired blades with your sustained hits, and you might have the lethal hits on top of that as well with your lieutenant. So you can finish off a lot of opponents by charging in. This can really cast some doubts in your opponent's mind, as it really sets this unit up to be able to trade fairly efficiently, especially into the lighter to medium armored opponents. Don't forget, part of the game is casting doubt on your opponent's stratagem, making him mid-game change what he wants to do, making him less efficient at taking those points. So in conclusion, they offer a great amount of movement. They can really pop around the board, even though they don't have jump packs or aren't in transport. And it allows you to take or hold objectives and also to push on and do actions, which is vital to win the game. The Haywire Mine lets them trade fairly efficiently. You can use this both defensively and offensively, which is quite nice. A lot of units just have charge and mortal wound ability, so to be able to declare this in your movement phase, their movement phase, either charge phase, it really allows you to have agency over when you're going to use this. The ability to offer other units +1 to hit on ranged attacks is also really nice. This essentially allows you to have a kind of baby oath on another target, where you are going to be hitting on 2s with the majority of your army, so you don't really need the reroll. So this allows you to possibly take out 2 priority targets a turn rather than the oath just allowing you that 1. And if you do double this up with Gilliman as well, you've then either got basically 3 oath a moment targets, or you pretty much got a guaranteed Gil on 1 target and another target that's very likely to die as well. Price-wise, they are relatively cheap for what they offer. When you think the amount of movement they've got, the AP on the combat blade, the Haywire Mine, which is quite good, the +1, the ranged attacks, the peekaboo mechanics with the lieutenant that you can take, they really are an efficiently priced unit. But saying that, you probably don't want to take more than 1 in the game because they don't have a lot of damage output. You do have other units that can be action monkeys as well, that offer you different outcomes and a little bit of a different take on how to take this type of unit. You really only want to use 1 of them in your army. You might be able to push for 2, but you definitely wouldn't take 3 of these. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to see all future content. Take it easy, I'll see you next time.